So, hi Detroit. I love you guys already. So, show of hands. I'd like to know who I'm talking to. How many of you guys are here because you want better health for yourself? All right, cool. And thank you. How many of you guys are here because you want to help other people have better health? A lot of helpers. Awesome. How many of you guys would like to look younger and be fitter even as you get older? And, oh, okay, already raising hands, yeah, all right. And how many of you guys say, give me all of that, give me all everything, all the above. All right, perfect. So you guys are in the right place. My name is Dr. Brooke Goldner, and I want to welcome you to reversing autoimmune disease and really any chronic disease using supermarket foods. Before I get started, I just want to give a big shout out to all of you here in this organization, especially to Paul. I mean, that man gives all of his time and all of his heart to trying to educate people and bring them together. I've never met anyone with such a gift for community. And he created this entire organization. It's the biggest community I've ever heard of in Detroit. This isn't Southern California with all the hippies, right? Yeah, big shout out to Paul. He really deserves it. And also to Dr. Joel Kahn, who relentlessly texted me until I agreed to come. I had no problem coming, I just didn't want to come when it was cold, and apparently that's a problem. So just let me know when the weather gets warm. And I'm, well, I live in Houston. I don't have much ability to tolerate cold. But he was awesome about it. And all the volunteers here, it really, everyone deserves a round of applause. It's really, really an amazing organization. And of course, I want to thank all of you guys for showing up. One, so I'm not talking to myself, but mostly because, you know, you could be doing anything tonight, right? I mean, you could be doing Netflix and some wine, right? You could be hanging out, playing Monopoly, or doing whatever it is you want to do with your family or friends, but instead you're here. And that's really important, because one, you're showing up for yourself, right? And two, because you're showing up for the people in your life. I believe that when you take control of your own life and your own health, it creates a domino effect on all the people who know you and love you. And so what you're doing right here is not only helping yourself, but it is going to help so many people that you connect with over time. So I want you to give yourself a round of applause for being here. I really appreciate you. All right. So you guys gave yourself less applause, by the way, than you gave everybody else. Can I take a selfie with you guys? You guys are so cool. Oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take a selfie and I'm going to post it online. Ready? It's going to be a video selfie, so you guys have to cheer like you actually are really enjoying yourself. Okay, ready? Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Hey, Detroit! Woo! I have to do that because my husband Thomas always does that, and it looks so freaking cool, and I never remember. So now I'm going to finally have... So let me grab my little thing here. So since we're going to spend some time together, is it all right if I tell you a little bit about myself? Good, because that was the plan and the slides go with that. But I like to make you feel like you're involved in the whole process. So how many of you guys actually have seen me before or heard of me before? Okay, and there's one clap. And some of you haven't. So just so you know, so as Lisa said, by the way, that was a great intro. It couldn't have been better if I wrote it. And as she said, I am a board certified medical doctor, and I'm kind of a doctor of the future. Everything I do is through telemedicine and online. So I basically don't have to wear pants if I don't want to. I can be in pajama pants and a nice shirt all day. None of you will ever know, right? But the reason that I do that is because ever since I left my job, I was a medical director at a nonprofit treating the homeless for years. Absolutely love it, but felt I had a bigger mission. So what happened is people who want to see me are all over the place. So in a given day, I might see somebody from India, and then UK, Australia, and then somewhere in the Midwest US or other places. So if people are in Texas and California, I can do medical treatment, but everywhere in the US, I help people with nutrition and programs like that. So I'm basically on the computer all the time. You guys are one of the few people who've ever seen me from the waist down. I already got a comment on, I didn't know you were tall, you know, because everyone's used to just seeing this, right? So I teach a lot online as well. So everything I do is that way. But before I became a doctor and before writing a book or doing any of that stuff, I was a patient. So when I was 16 years old, I was diagnosed with a disease called lupus. So how many of you have heard of lupus? Yeah, you know, it's interesting. When I was 16, it was very rare. People didn't know what it was. Now everybody knows somebody who has it, right? So I was 16 years old, and I had something called a malar rash. So I had a rash across my face. I had really bad arthritis. I mean, my knees would swell up, my toes. It was hard to write because my fingers were swollen and hurting. And I didn't know what it was. And it didn't occur to me that it was anything serious. It was, maybe it was from playing volleyball, although realistically I sat bench for volleyball, so it probably wasn't that. But I was trying to figure out, what it could be. And that was continuing on. I started getting really bad migraines. Migraines where I would be literally vomiting for days while I was laying in bed, just, wishing for anything that could relieve the pressure. And so all of these things started happening, and finally, it culminated with this rash forming on my face, and that's when my parents said, something's wrong and we'll go to the doctor. And so we go and we meet my doctor in the ER, and she pretty much right away knew what it was, took the blood test and diagnosed me with lupus. Now on top of that, my blood test indicated there was kidney problems. So immediately now I'm going into getting a kidney biopsy. Going to get the kidney biopsy, and the nephrologist comes out and tells me I've got stage 4 membranoproliferative nephritis, which basically just means I had the most aggressive form of nephritis. So do you guys know what lupus is? Do you know what autoimmune diseases are? I'll give you a quick one. So autoimmune disease is when your immune system, when you've got so much chronic inflammation going on that your immune system no longer does its job properly, right? So here's a question for you. How many of you guys think that inflammation is a bad thing? Okay, good, thank you. Now, how many of you guys, raise a hand if you think inflammation is a good thing? Okay, and how many of you guys think it's a trick question? Right, yeah. Getting to know me, right? So it's a trick question because inflammation is normal, right? So I'm gonna be showing you a little bit while we have an inflammatory immune system, which we need, and that is the immune system that gets activated when you get an infection. Or if you're clumsy like me and you knock your knee on the corner of your bed and you get it to swell up, right? I switched to one of those upholstered ones recently because it just wasn't learning my lesson, right? So the inflammation happens so that your blood can start bringing all of the immune modulators to your body where it needs to go to fight the infection or get rid of the damage. Makes sense, right? Now, the problem is when you start getting inflammation all the time because of what you're eating. So what you eat can create inflammation as well, because your body's having a response to your food as if you have an infection, right? So we have inflammatory foods that we'll talk about, and that creates something called chronic inflammation. That's the bad stuff. So from now on, when I talk about inflammation, I'm going to be talking about really chronic inflammation. But if you've got chronic inflammation going on long enough, you will trigger one of your genes for illness. Cool news is you can untrigger them as well, but not if you go with Western medicine, but so you can trigger those genes, right? So for me, that was lupus. And so what was happening is this chronic inflammation was now everywhere in my body, and it was triggering my immune system to no longer recognize what was mine and what was not. So it was attacking my kidneys as if they were a virus or a bacteria, and it was effectively destroying them. So the doctor told me that my kidneys were so advanced already that I had 6 months before I was going to die of kidney failure or need dialysis, which was shocking. It's one thing to think you have some aches and pains and some headaches, and it's something else to be told that you are mortally in danger and may lose your life or be on dialysis. So it was a really, really shocking, difficult time. I have a very close family. My grandparents are Holocaust survivors. My mom was born in Poland after the war. They came here so that I could live the American dream. And here I was, only child, star of the family, and now so sick. And it was really tough. I mean, my mother's very strong. She was just, you are going to go to school and you are going to finish high school. And, I didn't know that college was an option. I learned that later when some of my friends decided not to go. I was like, you can decide that? It was just a thing, right? So she was awesome and kept me focused, but I could hear her crying at night in her room. And my grandmother, who was so strong, I mean, she's a Holocaust survivor, crying on her knees, begging God, please just take me and spare her life. Now, I'm going to give away the ending and let you know I made it. She's happy. Oh, thank you. Survived, yeah. But it took a lot of medication. So I did a lot of high-dose steroids. I took about 7 different kinds of medicine every day. And they did an experimental treatment on me where they used chemotherapy. Now, chemotherapy is now commonly used in lupus. Selena Gomez had it. It didn't work. She got a kidney transplant. But the theory behind it is that the side effect of chemotherapy when people with cancer take it is their immune system stops working, right? So a lot of people with cancer die of infections because the chemotherapy wipes out their immune system and they can't fight off the flu. So I thought, what if we do that on purpose? And we shut off someone's immune system when it's overacting, like Control-Alt-Delete. Any of you guys have old school computers, right? Control-Alt. So I was one of the experimental people that they tried that on. They didn't know how long to do it for. Nowadays they do it for maybe a few treatments, maybe a couple months. I did it for 2 years straight. So I did chemotherapy from 16 to 18 years old. While other people were planning their prom dates, I was planning how to make sure that I got chemo on the right day so I could be there for my exams. Whenever I wasn't sick, I just read all my textbooks. So I was already a good student, but man, I knew everything. But it wasn't because I was such a geek, it was because I would spend my time reading my textbooks. So I was able to graduate in the top 10 of my class, and I got a scholarship to Carnegie Mellon, which was my first choice school, and my last chemotherapy was a week before I started college. And I was finally in remission, hey! So I was finally in remission at that time, and everything good? Or I haven't used it yet, if that's what you're wondering. I talk more than I click. So I graduated, I was in remission for the first time ever. Now, is remission a cure? No. Remission means your disease is not currently killing you, right? So if you took a blood test, I still had lupus. My numbers were better than they were before when I was acutely ill. I still had arthritis, but if I took my medicine, it could help with the arthritis. If I didn't get enough sleep, I'd get a migraine, but I could manage, and I didn't have chemo, so this was the best time of my life, right, at the time. And I managed to stay in remission through all of college. I managed my stress, I got my sleep, I did everything I needed to do. Then I made a really difficult decision. My doctors told me, make sure you always avoid stress, make sure you always get enough sleep. So I decided to go to medical school. That did not work out well for me. It worked out well for me overall, but I got sick again when I was in medical school. There was no protection over hours back then. So there were times where I was working 100-hour weeks or more. And I ended up having double vision and collapsed in one of the clinics. And it turned out that I was actually having mini strokes. So I developed a new lupus antibody that was causing blood clots. And at the time I learned that, well, now you have a shorter lifespan. You can never have children because between kidney failure and strokes, it's going to kill you if you can ever even carry a baby. I knew also at this point I was a medical student, and I understood. There was no Google when I got sick. So I just knew what my doctors told me, basically. But now that I was a medical student, I really knew what was going on and how, I'd be lucky if I wasn't disabled by my 40s. And I wasn't going to live that long a life. But I figured, you know what? How many people get to accomplish their dream? My dream was to be a doctor. I was a year away. And yes, I had to inject myself in the belly with blood thinners every day. But there was a medicine that could save my life once again. As long as I didn't hit my head and bleed out into my head, I was going to keep going. And I was going to live my dream. I'd gotten my first choice residency out in UCLA. I was in Pittsburgh, and I decided I never wanted another winter. And so, California. And I was excited for that. I did take a couple weeks to mourn. It's hard to feel like I'd been doing so well for so long. But ultimately, I was grateful that I still had so much. I had a beautiful family. My brain still worked. They told me that I had mini strokes, which meant that there wasn't a loss of function. I don't know. I think that I was smarter before, but I'm funnier now. But you develop medical humor when you've been sick long enough. It's okay to laugh. But I was really excited, and I can say that's the happiest I've ever been. I finally graduated medical school. Oh, that's me there. That's me in the middle. Yes, my dad is 6'7", so explains that. Woo! So that's me. I was a little bigger than I am now, right? That's the steroid face right there. You see all the big cheeks from the steroids. There's my grandmother who, I just lost her a year ago at 99. So I know, she's amazing. And so this was a big deal because for my family who thought they were going to lose me when I was a teenager, here I am at 28 graduating medical school. Very, very exciting. But even more amazing and wonderful was what happened next. Who likes a love story? Everybody likes a love story, right? I met my husband, Thomas Tadlock. Now, how many of you guys have heard of him? Some of you guys? Okay. He's amazing. If you haven't heard of him, you got to check him out. So he's totally bald now, which I find very sexy. That's us at 28. And we fell in love very quickly. It was about a month where he started talking about marriage. Now, I had to explain to him that as much as I am crazy about you, I have this disease called lupus. That means that I'm not going to be able to have children. I'm not going to live a long life. and you're going to have to take care of me when I become disabled. So I understand as a 28-year-old who's excited about his future if this is not exactly the path you want to choose. And he just paused for a moment. To him, he said it felt like a lifetime went by, but it was a moment. And his eyes welled up and he said, I'd rather live a short life with you than a lifetime with anybody else. I still can't tell the story without crying, and it's been 15 years. Yeah. So I said, well, holy crap, let's get married. Like, oh my God, really? You want to do this? So at the time, he was working with MTV. How many of you guys watched MTV TRL, like the beach house? I'm showing how old I am, right? So MTV used to have this beach house where they'd have like singers come and stuff. Well, at the time, this was 2004 when I met him, he was MTV's hottest body at the beach house in 2003. I was like, yeah, that's right. He's also extremely brilliant. And so since he was working for MTV and we decided we were going to get married in Hawaii, we basically eloped, just 13 people total with us included. He said, I only want people who are going to cry. So that's what we did. And so I said, well, now I have to go to Maui and wear a wedding dress and bikinis, and I've been on the perfect diet to be sick and fat, hospital food. So I've been eating hospital food. I was like a size 11 at the time, even though I like to work out. The white coat covers everything. So it really, no big deal until you're thinking about having a wedding. And I said, I want you to train me. Because what he'd been studying, he was getting his master's in exercise science and nutrition, and he was really frustrated because what he learned from a lot of his professors was some diets work for some people and some for others. And he's like, that's not science. He's like, it doesn't work that way. We're all made of cells. It should be that if you apply one thing to the cells, it always gives you the same output. His original BS was in computer science. So it's like, if you enter the equation, the answer should always be the same. So he worked very hard on understanding molecular biology to understand how to create a fast metabolism that does what you want it to do. And he actually has a best-selling book called Miracle Metabolism, right? And it's all about how to be leaner and fitter and faster at any age using a plant-based diet, right? But back then, he wasn't doing plant-based. He was doing, this is 15 years ago, like an early form of paleo before that paleo existed. So there was lots of fresh vegetables, raw vegetables, lots of omega-3s, lots of water, but he was using free-range meat for protein. Now, I had been an ethical vegetarian since I was 12. Back in the 80s, I'd never heard of a vegan before, so I was vegetarian since I was 12 because I loved animals, so I was not going to eat meat, but I lived on eggs and cheese every day. So that was like eggs and cheese and processed food. I mean, my parents owned Domino's Pizza when I was growing up, so I ate pizza every day, okay? My nephrologist, by the way, told me pizza was the perfect food because it had all the food groups. How far we've come. So I said, I'm not going to eat meat. And he said, okay, fine, we'll use tofu. I don't know, let's see. And we'll do everything else the same. So what happened was, in about 3.5 months, I went from a size 11 to a size 3. That was me before. That's not my husband, but he's a friend, and it's okay. He doesn't mind. So that was me right beforehand in LA. And this is us 3.5 months later. I told you he's hot. Right? So that's 3 months later. Now, that's all awesome and everything. It's nice to look good and feel good. But the most amazing part was, within a couple weeks, I didn't have arthritis anymore. I wasn't tired anymore. I didn't have migraines anymore. I was working 90-hour shifts as an intern and then going to the gym after my shift. That's not normal for not having lupus, right? I felt amazing. And I go to my new doctor in LA because all my other stuff was done in Pennsylvania. And the doctor walks in, and he has a med student with him, and he says, I want you to see, our next patient is Dr. Brooke Goldner. She alleges to have lupus. Like, excuse me? I'd had lupus for 12 years, so, and he said, well, I've read your charts, but your labs don't indicate you have lupus. And I'm like, let me see these charts, these labs. Sure enough, all my antibodies are negative. And the antibodies that I had for blood clots were only high borderline, but not positive. All the lupus antibodies were gone. So he said, must be a lab error. I said, yeah, must be, right? So he goes enjoy your wedding, come back. And then, by the way, here's our wedding. He said, go enjoy your wedding, come back, we'll retest you and we'll figure out what happened. I said, okay. At my wedding, came back, retested, now all the antibodies are negative completely, plus my cholesterol, which I was told was genetically high, nothing to do with all the cheese I ate, was genetically high, was now normal. My blood pressure that was always 120/80, except in kidney failure, was now 90/50. And I was like, what's going on? I'm like, I got no ideas, right? Because all I changed was my diet. And if diet had anything to do with illness, I would have learned that in medical school. So it obviously had nothing to do with that. It never even crossed our minds. So when people get mad at their doctors that they don't understand this stuff, this happened in my body and I didn't even see it. It took me years to figure out, wait a minute, something's weird here, right? So I didn't even realize that was happened. I just knew that I felt good and I was going to keep eating that way because I felt good, but I didn't think about lupus being gone because I had just graduated medical school and lupus is an incurable disease and it can never disappear, so it must be in remission even though my labs are negative. Well, 4 years go by and I finally want to do something that my doctors told me never to do. I decided that I wanted to get pregnant. Now, I didn't think I was cured or anything, but I knew that I had no lupus symptoms for 4 years straight, and my labs were negative for 4 years straight, so I thought I'd be okay. Everybody freaked out. My husband's like, you told me it would kill you to get pregnant, you know, and I said, and then my mom said, I'll be a surrogate. My mom's like, my husband goes, your mom's attractive, but I don't think I could do it. And I was like, you know, my best friend wanted to be my surrogate. I have a lot of people who love me. I'm lucky that way. But I said, no, I really feel like I'm healthy and I can do it. So my husband had a lot of reservations, but you can convince a man. And I'm not going to give details, but I got pregnant. And I went to see an OBGYN, and she said, oh, let me get your health history. And I said, well, I used to have lupus. And she goes, you don't used to have lupus. You have lupus. Oh my God, you got to go to high risk OB. She's worried about malpractice already. Go to high risk OB. They go, there's nothing wrong with this lady. You take her back. We're not going to follow her. So I had a healthy pregnancy. And they said, okay, well, if you had a healthy pregnancy, lupus is coming back when you give birth, because that's when it usually comes back. Okay. I gave birth. I had to have a C-section because my son was butt first. If you knew him, you would understand. But he was butt first. That's how he came into the world. So I had to have a C-section, but after he was born, I felt great. That's my Solomon. No, he's so cute. And so I had my Solomon, and I felt great. I was walking around after the C-section like, all right, I need some lunch. Make sure it's a salad. I don't want any of the crap you got here. Right? and I was fine. I made enough milk to feed my kid into a really fat baby and still donate to 4 families. I did that both times I was pregnant. And we were both great, but here's the thing. Here's when we finally got it. Here's when I finally got it that it was over. 9 days after I gave birth, it was my birthday. He was an early birthday present. So I was 32. And my mom goes, listen, I'm here. You guys just try to run out to dinner or something. I'll watch Solomon, and when he wakes up, I'll text you. You can come back and nurse. So, okay. What am I going to wear? I've been in pajamas for 9 days. Like, any of you have babies, you know, right? You don't even bother getting dressed. Like, why? At least I didn't. I was in pajamas, you know, and sleeping and breastfeeding, that's about it. So I go and I'm like, I have to get dressed, what am I going to do? And I just pull out the jeans I wore before I got pregnant, and they fit. So that's me 9 days after giving birth. My husband does this photo shoot because he's like, oh my God, this is going to be so good for business. Because at the time, he had the largest boot camps in Orange County, and he goes, the majority of the people who go to my boot camp are women who can't lose their baby weight, and their kids are like 18 years old. So he's like, this is going to be really good for business. He posted them online, check it out. And that is finally when we got it through our thick heads that I didn't have lupus anymore. Because number one, it is not normal for somebody with lupus, as severe as lupus that I had, to be able to have children and to be fine. That's weird. And my blood tests were still negative. Number two, it is not normal for someone to give birth and lose 40 pounds of baby weight within 9 days and be able to wear their pre-pregnancy clothes. So that's when we realized that I didn't have a body anymore like a normal body. My body was reacting in real time to whatever I asked it to do. Pregnant? I was pregnant, right? Gave birth? No problem. Nursing? No problem. And I didn't have lupus anymore. So finally we said, something's weird here. What happened? And that's when we said the only thing we ever changed was my diet. So we went backwards and we said, what did we do? Now, I'd never heard of plant-based doctors before. I'd never heard of any of that stuff. I went to a traditional, really good medical school. Never came up. So we went back and we figured it out ourselves. We looked at molecular biology, we looked at cellular biology, and we looked at what is it that I used to eat that could possibly trigger inflammation or autoimmunity? What did I start eating that could possibly accelerate cellular repair and improve the immune system? Because I can tell you this too, after I gave birth, I felt so good. I had a C-section, I felt fine. I didn't have pain, I was walking around, I felt good. And I told my doctor, I said, you're an amazing surgeon, because my patients, when they have a C-section, they tell me they're hurting for a long time. And she said, I'm an excellent surgeon, which by the way, you always want a narcissistic surgeon, always. No, you don't want someone to cut you who's not really confident, a little bit of God complex, right? You want them to be, so she's like, I'm an excellent surgeon, and you have an unusual capacity to heal. Which I still get goosebumps when I say that, because she said, I've never seen someone heal that fast before. I couldn't even heal a pimple when I had lupus. It would turn into an abscess. Now I can be cut open and have a baby come out, and I'm like, hey, what's going on for lunch? How are you doing, right? So something was happening in my body where I could do this, and that's when we figured it out. We said we'd accidentally created the most anti-inflammatory nutrition plan humanly possible. So what we did is we started applying it to people. We started testing it, and it turned out it works for everybody. So I'll let you see, I did get pregnant again. 4 years it took my husband to convince him to have one more. That was 2 days before I gave birth to my Alex. And I'm the happiest pregnant person you'll ever see. My husband said he never saw someone smile while puking before. I was like, I can't believe I'm pregnant. I was so excited. So this is my family. Here's my Tommy and Solomon, and that's Alexander down there. So he's 10, he's 6. And what we started doing is we realized that it works consistently over and over again. Now, I don't have time to show you every single person in their case tonight because they didn't give me the 6 hours I asked for. So what I'm going to do is, when I'm done, I'm going to tell you how to get the entire 6 hours of everything you need to do to know exactly how it works and how to apply it in your life for free. Is that okay? Cool. That way I can teach you as much as I can. There's no pressure. And then the rest of it, you can actually go online and learn it all for free. Sound good? Because I teach everything I do for free because I think good health should be a right and not something you should have to pay for. So, right? So, does it work for rheumatoid arthritis? You bet it. So this is Dana. You'll see her when you go online. I do my case studies. You can see when she came to me, she had such bad rheumatoid arthritis that she could work she was at school all day, but her knees hurt so bad it was like 8 out of 10. She could barely function when she got home, couldn't even deal with being a mom. Within 2 weeks of being on my nutrition plan, she was able to skip through the Home Depot parking lot. She was texting me that. And within 4 weeks, she was off all of her medicine, and she still is. By the way, texting me, I'm also a weird doctor. I give all my patients my cell phone number, so if they need me, they can reach me. So I know I'm really weird. Most doctors are like, what? But that's what I do. This is Kathy. Kathy was referred to me by her rheumatologist, go figure, right? So her rheumatologist actually was a plant-based physician. Oh, but he put her on a plant-based diet and she didn't get better. And that's what happens a lot is you have to be a lot more strict and aggressive with your nutrition for autoimmune disease than just stop eating meat, right? So she was ready to quit her job, which she loved. And her, at the time, partner, so Kathy's this one over here on the left. Her partner was just going to take care of her. She was going to declare disability and stop working. Her partner was going to take care of her. Within 4 weeks, she was changing tires, riding bicycles, feeling amazing, pain-free. And instead of going on disability, she actually married her partner, and they're traveling the world. And they just send me pictures like this to see how well they're doing. And by the way, this is why I do what I do, because I don't think being a doctor is about treating diseases. I think it's about giving people their lives back and giving them the opportunities to give their gifts, right? That's what we all really want, right? So every time I see something like this, I cry, and it's beautiful. But this is what I do this for, right? It's Danielle. Danielle had lupus and Sjogren's. She was in her 20s, and she had no social life because she was laying at home in pain all the time. Her neurologist told her about me. Not a rheumatologist, but her neurologist told her about me. She contacted me. She's now 100% disease-free, normal labs. She just got married and wants to live my story. This is David. You'll see his case when you go online, lupus, Sjogren's, and Scleroderma. This picture here is the best medicine could do. This is him off medication on my plan. It's been 4 years. He's had no medications. And his fingers were so deformed from scleroderma and broken open that his doctor said they were going to amputate his fingertips because there was no way to heal him. He is now an artist being featured in galleries all across LA. He also has a girlfriend now too. His mom texts me the pictures, but I didn't share the picture of his girlfriend. And it goes on and on. I mean, there's Emily, who did my 4 weeks of rapid recovery. So I have rapid recovery programs where you get better really fast. Let's say you don't want to take your time and figure it out, but you want me to help you every day. So 4 weeks, one-on-one, you have unlimited access to my cell phone. Or 6 weeks, I do it in group style. So she did one-on-one with me, and I mean, every day. I am a Jewish mother, so every day, what did you eat? How did you sleep? What's going on? Do you have any stress? Every day. At 2 weeks, she stopped answering me. I said, what happened? She goes, well, I'm already completely better, and I didn't want to bother you anymore. She's a teacher who has to sit in the front of the room. Now she gets to walk. This one is in the case studies that I just published. Mary had lupus and arthritis, was on the kidney transplant list, and she only had 14% kidney function left. She did my 6-week rapid recovery group, and her kidney function went up 2% every week till she was up to 27% at the end of 6 weeks. She's no longer on the kidney transplant list. And go figure, her nephrologist said, this is a miracle I've never seen before. Keep doing what you're doing. No curiosity. Yeah, I've yet to find a nephrologist to get on board yet. Scotty had to drop out of law school because of lupus in her lungs called pleurisy. 6-week rapid recovery group. She's actually back at law school, and she now has like an Instagram account teaching people how to do the diet and live their best life. Karen with Sjogren's and also reversed her antiphospholipid antibody. So that big thing at the bottom, that's what causes blood clots. So she no longer has to worry about strokes. Somebody just asked me about scleroderma. This is someone with scleroderma who did my group. Look, 6 weeks, it looks like a facelift. Because scleroderma is an autoimmune disease that hardens your skin. Look at her, it's amazing. Jeannie also reversed her antiphospholipid antibody, and I mean, they all look like they have facelifts, right? That's what happens when you really nourish yourself, you start to glow. It's really cool. And it goes on and on. I mean, here's someone who's a doctor herself, has had rheumatoid arthritis since she was 14. Within 4 weeks, her antibodies were negative. And this is Mariana had brain lupus, lupus cerebritis. She was having 3 to 4 seizures a day and couldn't leave her house, couldn't function. Within the 6 weeks, the seizures completely went away. She's now traveling around the world with her boyfriend backpacking. It goes on and on. And so when you come to the classes for free, you get to see all their case studies, and you'll actually get to hear them talk. You can see she had such bad Sjogren's that she had to sit in her house with foil on the windows because she couldn't tolerate light. That's her at the end of 6 weeks actually singing a song to me because her voice was affected and she couldn't sing. And so when her voice came back, she sang her first song to me, and Amazing Grace. Like, you got to see the video, you'll get to see it. And this is what I do all day. This is my practice. This lady was told she was definitely going to be in a wheelchair. 6 weeks later, she now carries her cane for like dancing. She said she goes to the doctor's office and she carries the cane. Love it. I also treat a lot of kids. When I was diagnosed with lupus, 16 was young. Why am I carrying this when I got this? Is this thing on? What the heck am I doing? Here, this will be better. I'm gonna put this one down. You guys can hear me just as well, right? You know what? Lisa passed it to me and I just took it. I'm a really good receiver. So Madeline, she had lupus in her lungs, in her heart, and in her kidney. At the time she was 11 years old. She had a code blue and died on the table. They had to bring her back, and her mom found me. This is her now. She's now 14 years old. She's not taking any medications. She purely uses her nutrition, and her heart was normal within 2 weeks. No, her kidney was normal within 2 weeks. Her heart was normal within 4 weeks. She has no problems with any of her organs. She wants to be a doctor. She's a straight A student. She does taekwondo and all that kind of stuff. But the youngest patient I have right now with lupus is 3 years old. That was unheard of when I first went to medical school. But the kids are getting sicker and sicker, and their nutrition is horrible. I mean, chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese and all this stuff. When people tell me my kids won't eat veggies, I'm like, what are you talking about? If they won't eat them, you're not serving them. And you've already gotten them addicted to something else, right? Because the most addictive drug on the planet is food, I think, and the most destructive. It is killing more people than alcohol, opiates, you name it, right? That's the thing. And so people are getting their kids addicted to the things that are going to kill them later. When you feed them right, they get their health back, but it's really sad and it's really frustrating. So if you don't do it for yourself, do it for them, because they need something to change fast because it's getting worse. And it works for other things. I mean, she just had chronic pain, obesity, and she had HPV and pre-cancer of her cervix. Her pain went away, and so did the HPV, and she had a normal pap smear. That was a surprise. And so what I'm still learning. Every single person I treat, they transform my life as much as I transform theirs. And I go, what I see is, unfortunately as a doctor, what I realized is the body actually is really good at healing itself if we get out of the way. So if you stop making yourself sick every time you eat, and she was on 9 medications, and you stop taking all these pills and and don't stop your pills before you fixed it with nutrition. But, we make things chronic. Chronic disease is not the body's natural way. We're not supposed to get sick and stay sick forever. That's not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to get sick and then we heal, right? So things are healing that I never pictured was even possible. It's amazing. And, it's great for weight. It's great for blood pressure. It's great for, of course, arthritis, but also other things. This lady did rapid recovery with me, and she no longer has celiac after 4 weeks. She eats grains now. It's been 2 years. She can still eat grains. This guy, his seizure disorder went away. And he did it 2 years, no seizures. Started eating meat again. Seizures came back within a couple weeks. So I said, good, you did some research? We done now? I'm a Jewish mother from New York, so there's sarcasm. Yeah. I also work with people who are pregnant. Here, I'm going to tell you a cool story. You guys want to hear a cool story? I hope so, because I'm going to tell a story, so be enthusiastic. Okay. So she came to me. She was 8 weeks pregnant. Right? This is Rachel, terrified because when she had her last baby, she ended up in the ICU. And when she had a miscarriage, she ended up in the ICU in the hospital. And now she was going to give birth. She had an older daughter and was terrified that she was going to end up sick again in the hospital. So she found my book and then made an appointment with me. And I said, your C-section date is in 4 weeks. So you have to do 4 weeks of rapid recovery. We have no choice, right? I have to talk to you every day, make sure. So within 4 weeks, she felt great. All the aches and pains that she thought were from pregnancy went away. So they weren't. The day before she gave birth to this little guy, she was running around the park teaching her older daughter how to fly a kite. So it was really exciting. At the end of 4 weeks, her Sjogren's antibodies were negative. It's now been a year. All of her tests are negative. She doesn't have lupus. She doesn't have any autoimmune. She's running 5Ks, pushing the stroller with the 2 kids. So that's really awesome. That's her right after she gave birth, looking great. Here's the thing, though. So that happens. That's great, right? So then her husband gets a call from his family in Israel that says, Mom is in the hospital and she's not coming out. They said she's in the ICU and the doctor says she's never leaving. Now, he texted me, so I'm going to read his text of exactly, because this is a lot of stuff. She had 25 heart attacks. She'd had 20 angiograms, 10 stents. She had 3 bypass surgeries. She also had type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, obviously. And even with her diabetes and needing insulin because she was so advanced, her blood sugar was always in the 200 to 300s anyway. So here's what's going on with Mom, and he goes, well, if this just saved my wife, maybe it'll save my mom. So he flies to Israel with the Vitamix blender, and I'm going to tell you why the blender, but he flies there with the freaking blender to Israel, shows up in the hospital, and plugs it in. He doesn't care that they say he can't do it. He's in the hospital. He's making smoothies, right? I'm going to teach you how to make healing smoothies, right? He starts giving them to her. And 5 days later, she walks out of the hospital. 5 days later. This is her a year later, visiting with them. Yeah. She no longer has any chest pain. She doesn't have any more heart condition to worry about. She's fine. She's walking around. She's feeling well. Like Paul talks about how great it is to be able to walk and breathe and not be in pain. She still has diabetes, but it's now completely controlled. You can see she lost a lot of weight. She flew in from Israel to visit over the holidays, and that's the picture he sent me. So Mom is now fixed. So what happens is, Nir, who's the husband here, he's not looking whole food plant-based there, right? He's doing some stress eating, because now it's like, okay, his wife was sick and having a baby, which is really scary. My husband said it's terrifying. Like, he was so terrified when I was pregnant, And then his mom. So he's eating plant-based at home because his wife's now making what I teach, but he's a teacher on lunch break. Whatever's happening at lunch is happening at lunch. Calls me up and says, Dr. G, I've got diabetes. And I said, Nir, what are you eating? I said, your wife, I know your wife's making the right food. And he told me what was going on. I said, okay, we got to take care of you. So one of the things I addressed that actually Paul brought up was his stress levels, right? As long as you have stress, stress is inflammatory. And so even if you're eating well, stress can override it, and it can really slow down your ability to heal. I'm like, you got to stop worrying about everyone. They're all okay now. Your mom is fine. Your wife is fine. You don't have to worry about them anymore. And he started sobbing. Said, now we got to worry about you. So he started exercising, he started taking better care of himself, and he started eating right. He'd also, by the way, had fatty liver for 15 years and was told there was nothing he could do about it. Well, 3 weeks after he started the program, he's already feeling great. And his blood sugar's already down to the 130s to 140s and 100 throughout the day before dinner. And here's the thing, and he'd already lost 7 pounds. But his next set of labs in 1 month showed that he no longer had fatty liver. He had normal liver enzymes. 15 years fatty liver gone in 4 weeks. So we thought, that's really good. And that happens a lot. There's a lot of people nowadays that have fatty liver that's not from alcohol. When I was in medical school, it was only from alcohol. Now it's non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which basically means you're eating corn syrup and sugar and you're making fatty liver. So that was gone. Usually I see that gone in 3 to 4 weeks in my clients. So that was gone right on schedule. And then 6 weeks later, he no longer has diabetes. His hemoglobin A1C is 4.8 and his average glucose is 91. Now, I get much faster results than most people because I do hypernourishment. I don't let people slowly start improving their health, unless that's what they want to do. I really work on hypernourishing. Let's give you the best, most anti-inflammatory food possible so you get better faster. I have a shorter attention span. I know about you guys. Like, I'd rather run a sprint. I have friends that are ultramarathon runners. I'm like, why? Why? A whole day? A whole day? Right? Right? So he did the sprint, and here's what he looked like afterwards. Right? Very handsome guy, looking good. But here's the thing, is that here's these beautiful kids, right? Now, they have the genes for heart disease. They have the genes for fatty liver. They have the genes for diabetes. They have the genes for lupus and Sjogren's disease, right? That's their genetics. But the diseases are going to stop here, right? Because they are being raised eating plant-based nutrition. He was drinking his smoothies out of his bottle just like mine did. This kid, she likes to teach. She gets on the phone when her mom calls and tells me all about eating right. But they don't have to ever be sick. And that's the reason that I want to be here and I want to keep talking, I want to keep teaching, because we need to do better for them. So, thank you. Now, because of the success I've had doing this work, I've been doing disease reversal for about 10 years now. I've gotten a little bit of attention for it. And, you know, I wrote Goodbye Lupus in 2015, and my husband said, people need to hear this. And I said, okay. So I wrote this book, and I hadn't told anyone I wrote it. I had just put it on Amazon as a pre-order because I wasn't finished yet, and it went bestseller before I even finished it. And nobody knew who the heck I was. So that just shows how much people were looking for this information. So I have 2 best-selling books, which I have here. But I've also been on the cover of Vegan Health and Fitness. My son stole this one. 3 times. There's Dr. Garth Davis. This was the recent one. Oops, I just went too far, I think. Oh, it's okay. No, here it is. So that was the recent one with my son, with my husband. And it's kind of funny because fit over 40 to me really means you look good for your age, but I'll take it. See, now it's going too far. So next is AARP. I'm going to wait. But one of the things that was amazing about this for me was I was hoping not to be disabled by my 40s. Not an icon or example of what it looks like to be extraordinarily healthy and fit in your 40s. So this was a very emotional thing for me to be on this cover. I've been in Eating You Live. How many of you guys have seen Eating You Live? You should have all seen it, right? Paul hosted it here? Yeah? Super cool. Like 3 of you, thank you for clapping on that. It's a really good movie, not because I'm in it necessarily, but because it's about hope and stories of recovery, right? And that's what we need. We don't just need to hear doctors telling us what to do. We need to see people's stories and feel inspired, yes. And I've been on stuff like Home and Family Show and all those kinds of things. And for me, it's not about the attention or all those things. That's not what I went out to do. I just wanted to help people. But what this means to me is that the message is out there, right? I'm going to be in an upcoming issue of Woman's World next month. You know that tabloid in the supermarket that's like right when you check out? They just sent me the photos to prove. I'm like, Woman's World, oh my God, I've got supermarket tabloid status. But I'm excited because it's one thing to be on Vegan Health and Fitness, but who's reading that? The vegans. But when I'm on the Home and Family Show or when I'm in Women's World, I'm going to reach new people, and this needs to be mainstream, right? So I'm really excited about that, and that's what I really care about. So with the time I have left, I really want to teach you as much as I can, and like I said, I'm going to tell you at the end how to get all of it for free and all that, right? So we won't stress about it. Does that sound good? All right, so here's the thing. I do everything in a way that's really easy to understand and really simple. I was raised by immigrants. You have to speak simply and to the point. Right? So I break everything down into really easy steps that are so easy to understand, even doctors can understand. Right? So steps 1, 2, and 3 are easy, right? Eliminate the inflammatory foods. Here's the thing. if you want to get healthy, you should stop getting sicker first, right? No? When my husband teaches metabolism, he always goes, I'm going to tell you the secrets to rapid fat loss. And everybody leans in. He goes, step number 1, stop getting fatter. He gets a bigger response than I did. But okay, right? You got to stop getting sicker. So you guys have heard this before. I'm not going to focus on this too much. So what is it? Animal products, oils, processed foods, right? You guys have heard that enough times, right? So but have you ever seen the pathway of how it creates inflammation? Please show us, Dr. G. Okay, cool, yeah. So my specialty is understanding the molecular basis for inflammation and for healing, right? Now, you do not have to copy down these pathways. I don't want you to. I just want you to get the point, all right? I showed it to medical students today, and I went fast on purpose because they should know it. But so here's the pathway. So I learned in medical school that arachidonic acid creates your inflammatory immune system, right? So these are leukotrienes, thromboxanes, prostaglandins. It doesn't matter. Don't stress about that. But this is your inflammatory immune system, and these are the enzymes that take arachidonic acid and turn it into this stuff. What I learned is how to stop these enzymes with medicines. I didn't learn where it came from. Nobody thought to ask, right? They teach you so much, you never think to ask, well, where does arachidonic acid come from? Can we just stop making it? Well, so when you have a lot of arachidonic acid from oils and processed foods and from animal products, you upregulate these enzymes, which means the more arachidonic acid you have, the more of those enzymes you make. Does that make sense? We're all with me? Okay. If you make more of the enzymes, you're going to make more of the products. Does that make sense? Now, this keeps going. Your body doesn't stop. The more arachidonic acid you have, the more enzymes, the more products. Now, this is your inflammatory pathway, right? So what happens when you have more 5-LOX? So 5-LOX is involved in cellular growth. Cellular growth. So when you have more 5-LOX, you have more cancer growth, right? Because that's going to promote any kind of abnormal cells are going to grow more. If you have more leukotriene B4, you're going to have more inflammatory bowel disease, more asthma. This is a big one for asthma, heart attacks, chronic inflammation, destruction of healthy tissue, arthritis, edema, pain. There's more, but I didn't have enough room, right? So if you have any of this stuff, you might want to consider not eating this stuff, right? Does that make sense? Now, COX-1. COX-1 is involved in creating blood clots. Is it important to have blood clots? Yes. If you ever had a paper cut, you want it to seal, right? So we need blood clots. But if we have too much blood clots, what do you get? Yeah, you get strokes, heart attacks, pulmonary embolisms. Been there, right? Now, if you have too much COX-2, COX-2 is involved in something called angiogenesis. It makes blood vessels, right? If you have too much blood vessels, you create a really good blood supply for cancer. Right? Which is the primary way that eating animal products is creating cancer and promoting cancer. Does that make sense? Is that cool or what? Science is so fun. It's so cool. I don't know, I get excited by this stuff. Okay, so now if you have more prostaglandin E2, you're going to have more cancer, irritable bowel, inflammatory bowel disease, chronic inflammation, pain. Do you guys know anyone who has any of those symptoms? Yeah. So that's where it comes from, right? Is that cool? So that's what I want you to understand. You don't need to understand all the mechanisms of it, but it's kind of nice to see how it works, right? So I find that really fun to understand because you hear don't eat this, but I'm not the kind of person who listens necessarily when people tell me what to do. But if I understand, it'll make a difference, right? So I think it helps to understand. Now, does everyone understand why you shouldn't eat that stuff? All right. Here's what's missing is what do you eat, right? What do you eat? So a lot of people have just gone to, well, if it's not an animal product or a processed food or an oil, then you can eat that, right? But the problem is that people's choices aren't necessarily nourishing enough. I have a lot of people who are plant-based who now come to me for help. I actually treat a lot of plant-based doctors on the DL because they don't want anyone to know they get sick, which I, by the way, don't think that. I think you should let people know you're on a journey. I'm very transparent myself. But I've treated a lot of vegan celebrities and people like that who, when being plant-based isn't enough, I can help them to get better. And so the problem is a lot of plant-based diets are missing the most important ingredients when it comes to disease reversal. You want to know what those are? Well, yeah, right? So, number one, so healing foods. What does it say? Oh, no. The number one most commonly consumed vegetable in the U.S. is ketchup. I think it was the Bush administration who decided that ketchup was going to count as on the kids' lunches as a vegetable. And the number two is French fries, because the ketchup, right? Most people, if they're now raw vegetables, the reason it's raw is because it turns out that the way things come through in nature is actually right for us in terms of our absorption and our ability to function. So all of the first medicines were plants. So vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, all the different phytonutrients, phytoenzymes, they're all alive and well in these plants, and they get destroyed when you cook them. And even more important than the theory of it is the practice of it. I have worked with people who have eaten tons of cooked vegetables all day long and they still had autoimmune disease. We turned them into raw vegetables and the disease went away. Results matter more than thinking, right? So it's really important. Now, I think the majority of what you eat should come from this, especially if you're sick. So have a big salad and then put some beans on it, eat your quinoa in there, stuff like that. Don't make your whole plate full of all the cooked stuff and then like a little bit of lettuce on the side or a piece of lettuce and a tomato on your veggie burger, right? We need to get more of this in, especially if you're sick, because what I do is hypernourishment, which means I oversupply the nutrients that help people heal faster. So if everything you eat is coming from this and the other things I'm about to teach you, you get better faster. Does that make sense? More medicine. So when people do rapid recovery with me, they're eating, like, they start out at 8 cups and we go up to 10 cups or more of raw vegetables a day. How many of you guys eat 8 to 10 cups of veggies a day? Well, you were in my group, right? So, but most people don't. Most people don't even eat a cup. So this is really, really important, right? Now, fruits, they're okay. They've got some vitamins. They don't have any minerals. Minerals come from the soil. So things that are in contact with the soil have more minerals in them. And most people in America are not vitamin deficient, they're mineral deficient. So kale, broccoli, spinach, all dirty in the soil, right? That's the stuff that's got the most nutrient density. So if you're trying to figure out how to get better faster, focus on leafy greens, cruciferous veggies. Those have the most bang for your buck. Next is water. People don't think about water. They think about all of their food, and then they heard, like Dr. Greger said, a certain kind of tea is helpful and all this stuff, but most people don't drink enough water. Water is really important for multiple reasons. One is every chemical reaction that takes place when you're trying to heal, it needs water as one of the reactants. So even if you eat all the raw vegetables and you're doing a great job, right, you're not going to get better if you don't have enough water. So I usually have people drink a minimum of 96 ounces of water a day. So yes, between the fiber in the veggies and the water, you're in the bathroom a lot, okay? Not much I can do about that. If you're going to heal through what you put in your mouth, it's got to come out. So sorry about that. I got an amen over here, right? So that's just something that happens. But it's also important because it's the number one cause of dehydration is the number one cause of headaches. When you're dehydrated, you lose cellular volume in your brain. It starts to tug on the sides of your head. And it's also the number one cause of constipation. Constipation is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it hurts marriages. It hurts relationships. Nobody's in a good mood if they haven't had a poop. Right? It's very important. It's undervalued. I had a friend, he actually called me and he said, "You saved my marriage," because I thought my wife just had prolonged PMS. It was constipation. And she now walks out in the morning and she's just like this, smiling, because she's able to go now. So it's very exciting. But when you have to understand that you're supposed to absorb water in your large colon, right? In your colon, that's where water gets absorbed. So the reason for that is the water in your colon is supposed to act like a lazy river to bring the feces out towards the exit. But if you're dehydrated, it's kind of like if you were trying to go down a water slide with no water. You just, right, trying to get down there, right? So it's my mom's favorite part. So that's what happens is people have no water and it's just getting stuck. So if you hydrate, you'll be a lot happier and you'll heal faster, right? And the last one is omega-3s. Now, how many of you have heard that you should avoid all fat if you're going to be a healthy plant-based person? I know you guys have heard it because I know who's come here before. No? Nobody's copping to it. Okay. Fats are kind of the baby that got thrown out with the bathwater. There are certain fats that are essential. So both, my board certification is neurology and psychiatry, although I basically do disease reversal now. But one of the most essential things that you need for brain function and for your metabolism is omega-3 fatty acids, and you cannot make them, you have to consume them. Now, most people don't. So there's a lot of reasons why that you need them. So one is to make your metabolism faster. This is how. When you don't eat omega-3s, your cellular membranes are too stiff. And so nutrients can't get in, and toxins can't get out. So you're eating all these vegetables. You're like, Dr. Goldner said I had to eat 8 cups of vegetables a day. I'm eating all these vegetables. I'm not getting any better. You're not getting any of the nutrition. Or I'm working out like crazy, but I'm not losing any fat. The signal that said to lose the fat never made it because you don't have the omega-3s to make your cells more flexible. A flexible cellular membrane that is made of omega-3s will allow nutrients in and toxins out really fast. It's also one of the reasons why people go through some serious detox when they go all in on healing foods, because all of a sudden it's all just being released, and it could be a rough couple of weeks, just letting you know. Water helps it go faster, right? But that makes a lot of sense, right? So that's one issue. Second one is, it's really important for building a healthy brain and healthy neurons. They've actually shown that mothers who are pregnant that consume omega-3s, their IQs of their baby are much higher. My OBGYN had read that, and she told me to back off my omega-3s because she thought I was going to overshoot and then my kids wouldn't have like social skills. They were too smart. But really, really important. They've been shown to actually be anti-aging for your brain, protect against dementia, and the most important thing, this is my baby, is the immune system. So this is what's really important about omega-3s, is they create your anti-inflammatory immune system. Now I'm going to show you another chart. Again, don't worry about the science, but I want you to see this. So when you eat flax and chia seeds, you get something called ALA. Now, ALA in itself has been shown to be protective against the brain experiencing things like dementia. You don't get that when you eat directly DHA and EPA. So you get this. We go through the pathway. I won't torture you with all the names. You get DHA and EPA, right? That's what's in fish. That's what's in algae, stuff like that. Then it goes down, and you get your anti-inflammatory immune cells. So if you want to be able to fight inflammation, you need omega-3s. And the problem is, in our country and many others, people eat inflammatory foods all day long, right? Processed foods, meat, oil, all day long. They don't eat any omega-3s. And so what happens? You get sick and you stay sick. Doesn't that make sense? Isn't science awesome? So here's how you hack your health. Now, my husband was originally a computer science. And so I love thinking about this as hacking your immune system. So I'm going to teach you guys. And by the way, if you don't have autoimmune disease or chronic disease, this just makes you younger and fitter and not get sick, like getting the flu or anything like that. It's okay, right? So here's what you do. Here's the two pathways side by side. Again, don't memorize this stuff. But they look kind of similar, right? And they share the same enzyme. So have any of you ever heard that you can't efficiently break down ALA into EPA and DHA? Has anyone ever heard that? It's a common myth. Here's the problem, is that this enzyme is shared, and it prefers the inflammatory pathway. So if you're eating anything inflammatory, oils, fats, processed foods, you're going to have very little conversion. But if you get rid of that, bam, alakazam, sham, wow, right? You get really good conversion, and what happens is inflammation comes down really fast. One of the reasons people get better in 4 to 6 weeks, or that little bit of time on my program, is because I focus on getting the inflammation down using omega-3s, and it's pretty darn sexy, isn't it? So if you want to be able to make sure that you get better faster, you've got to address this. Now, even cooler is when you have large amounts of EPA, it inhibits the breakdown of arachidonic acid into your inflammatory immune cells. So there's a benefit, again, of getting less inflammation even while you're getting rid of it. Isn't that cool? So you guys going to do that? Awesome. Like I said, if you come to my class, I'll teach you more of how this stuff works. If you like this kind of thing and you want to learn more stuff like that, definitely come. So one of the questions you might have is like, what if I don't like to eat salad as much as you do, Dr. G? So that's me enjoying my favorite kale salad at Veggie Grill. Not everyone likes to chew on their food. There's a smoothie solution. Now, I've heard that you guys have been told smoothies aren't good. You should use your saliva and your teeth. Well, you know what? They work. So my thing is, everyone has a theory who has a mouth, but what I care about is results. And I've reversed disease in thousands of people with all they have to do is drink stuff out of a straw. I think it's pretty darn convenient. But if you don't want to, you can just eat all the salad you want all day long. But I can tell you it works. So I give you the details, but here's what you need to know. It's got to be 75% veggies. I don't make fruit smoothies. 75%, which means you take your blender and you take your greens and you shove your fist down until it's 75%. You don't anoint it with some air in there and it's kind of floating and there's spaces in it. It's like you shove it down 75% greens, because this is a vehicle to get leafy greens into you that most people don't want to eat. Then you take your handful of flax or chia seeds. For people who have autoimmune disease, I'll start them out with a half cup, but if you're just kind of getting into it, handful of flax or chia seeds. And then the 25% that's left, you use that for fruit. Just for the spoonful of sugar to make the medicine go down. It tastes like fruit, even though it's mostly green. And then you use water to the level of the greens. And guess what? You've got your raw vegetables, you got your water, you've got your omega-3s, and all you gotta do is drink that, and you're done for the day on getting all the nutrition you need. How cool is that? Boom! That's right. So you guys want free recipes? Take a screenshot of that. SmoothieShred.com. My husband and I created this because we wanted to give back and we wanted to create a community. We don't have the skills that Paul has, but we have internet skills. So we created a community that has thousands of people all over the world. You do not have to be plant-based. You do not have to be anything except committed to adding this to your life. Because what happens is even people who eat meat, they start drinking the smoothies and they feel better and they become interested in plant-based. People shut off their ears when you tell them what not to do. But if you say, can you add this, it works. So smoothieshred.com, if you go to the website, you'll see we have all the stuff here. You can get recipes. So let me see. You see all the recipes you can get there. We have tons of informational videos. We teach a lot for free in the group, my husband and I both. There's all the videos he has going in there and all my videos, and it's constant. We're constantly updating it. So that website is free. You don't have to put your information in it. You just go there, watch videos, free recipes. Does that sound good? Okay, cool. Now, if you want to, and you're on Facebook, you can also join our Facebook group. And the Facebook group, when I took this picture, it had 19,619 people in it, but there's more today, right? In the group, it's kind of cool because people post their stuff and they support each other. So you'll literally see people in the group like down 15 pounds, down 8 pounds. A lot of people do it for weight loss. This person got off their blood pressure medicine. This person stopped their anxiety medicine and their sinus medicine. This lady's lupus went into remission. So join our family if you want to. If you want to join our community, we'd love to have you. We make all our announcements there also of anything we're up to, and we also do constant Q&As to make sure that we're answering people's questions and helping them get the fitness and the health they want. Does that sound good to you guys? Cool. And the other thing is, I promised you I'd tell you how to see me teach all this stuff for free later, right? So my free classes, Reversing Autoimmune Disease and Chronic Disease with Supermarket Foods, it's online. It's May 28th to June 2nd. I do it about every 2 months, because when I'm busy in my group, it's like all I can do is I'm healing 30 people at a time using online, working with them every day. So that's what I'm doing. Like if I'm not seeing people over Skype, then I'm in the group. So every 2 months or so, I'm able to do these classes. Each class is about an hour. The Q&A is usually like 2 to 3. Because I stay on and answer questions late into the night. So if you go to my website, which is goodbyelupus.com, you'll see this big banner. You click on that and you can register for the webinar. And what happens is you'll get an email that tells you that you registered, a reminder that says don't miss the class, and after the class is over, you get an email that has a link to watch it as a replay. So if you can't make it live, then you can watch it as a replay. I just spoke to a whole bunch of med students at Wayne today and got them all to agree they were definitely going to come. So we're trying to get some more doctors who can do this stuff, right? So make sure you come to that. The first 2 classes are the details and the science between, what you shouldn't be eating and why you should be eating the other stuff. The 3rd class is all case studies. And you get to see them speak and talk about their lives changing. And it's my favorite class. It's really beautiful. So hopefully you guys will come to that. Goodbyelupus.com. So just go there and you can register. And anyone on social media? Yeah. Instagram, I'm on Goodbye Lupus on Instagram. Facebook, I'm Goodbye Lupus on Facebook. Those of us that are 40 and older still use Facebook. It took me a while to get on Instagram. Twitter, I'm actually at Vegan Medical Doc, and YouTube. I put out videos almost every day on YouTube. And they're not just on nutrition, but everything else you need to do to have a better life and be healthy. I've had a lot of old patients actually contact me who told me that they'd fallen off the wagon and weren't doing well, and the fact that I'd started making all these videos got them inspired and back on track, so I think it's really helpful to have that. You guys got the screenshot? Yeah? And if you want to reach me, I want you to be able to. Those are our 2, so that's my website, or Smoothie Shred. That's my personal email address, and that is my personal number at the office. You can text it. It's an electronic number, because who has landlines anymore? So it's an electronic number, and you can text it. You'll hear from me much faster if you do that. It takes me forever to listen to voicemails, but text messages, I'm like a queen. I can go down the computer and answer them all. So it's the best way to reach me. Take a screenshot of that. So what I've been told I should be doing here is one of me answering questions, and then we'll do some questions, and then when the time is up, we'll go to the outside the room for people who want to get books. So I have, I forgot to bring them up. So I have my 2 books with me, Goodbye Lupus and Green Smoothie Recipes. Normally, Goodbye Lupus is 15 and Smoothie Recipes is 10, but whenever I'm in a conference, I always do something special, so it's 2 for 20 if you guys want that. If you want a signature, I'm happy to sign it. Or if you just want to keep asking me questions, Or if you just want to hug, I'm a big hugger, please come out there and make sure that you do that, and I'm happy to do all or one or however many you want of those things. So thank you guys so much for your attention. I hope you learned a lot.